Hi, I'm James Charles.
Hey everyone, my name is Caitlin and this is my husband Garrett, and today we are going to be talking about our first deployment.
God, I look good in the video, don't I?
So first, I'm gonna kind of explain the situation we were in, or I'll have you explain the situation we were in right before we left.
You mean like you were giving birth?
Yeah.
Let's.
No, okay, so never mind. I was due with Clara on October 11th, and Garrett was supposed to...
I think your initial date was October 10th. Because I remember being 10/10.
Okay. Anyways, I was supposed to give birth to Clara or I was due on October 10th. And he was supposed to, ship out. I don't know what the airman term for that is, but...
Leave.
Leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite shipping out because...
Nothing special.
Anyway, so on October 1st. Now, you talked to some people about being able to stay home for the birth of Claire. How did that go over?
Well, basically, like on every set of orders you get, so like I was going from a training command to an actual command, like my first sea duty, and at the end of every orders, there's like a report no later than date, and the report no later than date was October 30th. So I just kind of milked that no later than date so I could stay home as long as I could.
Yeah, because you had just finished your schooling. September 13th or something like that.
Yeah.
So it just happened to be good timing on that part with Claire's due date. So he was supposed to leave on October 30th, and something happened with the military purchasing the plane tickets, I remember, to where he didn't end up having to leave till November 9th. And which worked for us because I had to be induced on October 18th. 17th. I gave birth to her on October 18th. So he was able to spend 3 weeks with her?
Yeah, something like that. Because I checked in November 12th. So it would have been November 11th here because it was in Japan. So.
Yeah. And then I, with my parents, drove all the way back up to Iowa. And that's where I spent Iowa from that November 9th or November 10th until the last week of February. And then we had the 60-day extension, which happened at the end of March, right before my birthday, because you were supposed to be here, you were originally supposed to be here April 4th.
Mm-hmm. 2 days after your birthday.
Yeah, and then we were thinking April 15th, and then the 60-day extension hit to where it was.
I didn't get home until May 15th, May 14th.
Which was actually sooner than what we were expecting.
Yeah, I was expecting not to be home by my birthday in June.
So yeah, that was kind of this was a very messy deployment.
Yeah.
I mean, it was our first deployment, so we really have nothing to base it off of, but
Well, it wasn't messy like you and I, it was messy with
No.
all the bureaucratic BS that went on.
Yeah, so it kind of just really, it played with the emotions a lot of him coming home though, especially since like he hadn't seen Claire since she was 3 weeks old, and she was, 7 months old when you got home, pretty
Yep.
much. So it was kind of like a big change there, and when we were expecting him a lot earlier than when he did come home, and it messed with a lot of emotions. I know I cried a lot.
Yeah, but you always cry.
Hearing this. But yeah, that messed up a lot too. So I'm just gonna kind of ask you some questions about how you kind of deployment worked between the two of us, and then I'll also respond with my feelings and opinions. You respond with yours. So okay, you can say okay.
I'm sorry. All right, go ahead. Take 2.
Anyways, so what was the hardest part about your first deployment? You sound constipated.
I don't know. I don't know, deployment just sucks.
You're just like, okay, look over there.
Probably watching Clara grow up without me. And like, I hate FaceTime and I hate talking over the phone, and that's all we can communicate. That's the only way we can communicate, so that was garbage.
Yeah, I would have to say that was probably my like most irritating moments were trying to FaceTime you
Yeah.
and keep in contact with you because you're not exactly the best at that. And
No.
I think that's where most of our fights came from, was between that and finances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in Guam. Guam was fun. Spent a lot of money in Guam.
We spent a little too much money in Guam.
Guam was awesome.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to enjoy any of that, so.
Yeah, well, that's why you're not in the military.
Okay, so speaking of, what was the best part of deployment?
Probably just being able to constantly hang out with my friends. I mean, it was basically like I was in college again for 6 months.
Wow. Okay. Okay, so like, I mean, okay, you gotta hang out with the bros and stuff, but what about like the countries you gotta see, the experiences?
Well, yeah, I got to see Singapore, I got to see the Philippines, I got to see Guam. Being in the Philippines made me appreciate the United States more, because the Philippines is an interesting country. A very poor country. Very, very poor country. Other than that, yeah, I mean, Singapore was cool. Guam was cooler.
And you gotta go, what, snowboarding?
Yeah, I got to go snowboarding in the mountains of Japan, which really aren't mountains, they're just large hills.
But still probably a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was cool. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your favorite place was what, Guam or Singapore?
Guam, because I could do more things, but Singapore was definitely like the nicest country I went to on deployment. Because Singapore is extremely rich. Only rich people live in Singapore, so it's because it's, you know, $80,000 just to have a car in Singapore.
Damn. That's a lot. We couldn't afford a car in Singapore.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Like a 2016 Honda Civic is like 75 grand in Singapore.
I got you.
I could buy one for $1,500 here in the States.
What was your relationship with your family like during deployment?
Well, I mean, it wasn't bad. Like, I talked to everybody, but like, I think a lot of people forget that life goes on. You know, when I go over there, you know, life goes on here, and people, you know, I left, my daughter was 3 weeks old, and I got home and she was basically a completely different person. So life goes on, and I expected it to pause. So I left thinking that when I came back it would be the exact same as when I left, and it just wasn't.
So in what ways was it different?
Well, Clara was a lot bigger. You had developed a routine that I was not a part of, and so kind of throwing myself into our routine was different. You know, this deployment was unique because I had to come home from a deployment to see chaos because of the United States and this COVID BS and how the United States has handled it and how the state has handled it and how we closed down and the economy is tanked. I had to come home to see all that. I didn't, you know, I was all over the world, didn't see it until I came here.
Yeah, and a lot of things that are different, which as I said, we've never experienced a deployment before, so we never really got to experience when it was normal. Well, normal for a deployment, but his homecoming was not a big celebration at all. It was literally, I saw your plane land, I waited out for you outside the car, and you walked out to me, and that was pretty much it, and we went home.
Yeah, it wasn't like the military homecomings you see on, you know, YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, we did get some cute pictures. We have a good friend who took pictures for us. She lives on base, so we were really fortunate to get like cute homecoming photos, your first photos with Clara and stuff, so.
Yeah.
I thought that was...
Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. Now I gotta do that.
Anyways, so yeah, the deployment was definitely, like the homecoming aspect was a lot different. It was still emotional.
She cried.
Yeah. Well,
She always cries, so.
I don't always cry.
Yeah,
You
she
make me
did.
sound like a crybaby. I don't always cry.
She cries. A lot.
Anyways, so when it came to you coming home, definitely for us, I don't feel like because I was reading a lot into this. I know they had to educate you guys before coming home, like of the possible like issues you might run into and stuff. I personally don't feel like we really had a huge problem with the transition, but
no, I mean these programs that they give us are centered around people who are in combat deployments, and thankfully I'll never have to do a combat deployment.
Yeah.
So a lot of this, like the only thing I had to worry about was for 6 months I focused on no one but myself. You know, I went to the gym whenever I wanted to go to the gym. I ate whatever I wanted to eat. I spent money whenever I wanted to spend money.
Yeah.
If I wanted to go to McDonald's or Burger King or Popeyes or wherever, I went there, you know, and my time was my time, and then I come home and I have a wife and daughter who depend on me and also want to share my time with me. So that was the biggest adjustment I had. But those programs they gave us were they're centered around combat deployments, and I mean, I stayed in 4 or 5 star hotels my entire deployment, so it wasn't really the same thing.
Yeah, let's go back to that. So what was your deployments like? Like when people think deployments, they're thinking of the nitty gritty, and I had to explain to a lot of people while you're gone that no, you are like living your best life right now.
Yeah, my deployment's pretty cool. So like I'm a naval air crewman, so I fly for a living, and when I fly, we have to be close to airports, and you know, hotels are close to airports, so I stay in 4 or 5 star hotels basically. Well, 3 to 4. I had like a 4.5 star hotel the entire time, and I get to stay in places like Singapore, downtown Singapore, Guam. I stayed in the Nico Hotel Guam, which is a 5 star hotel in Guam, and it was, you know, on the beach and it was gorgeous. And then the Philippines, I stayed in the best hotel in the Philippines, which is the Marriott and the Clark Airport, or Clark Freeport Zone Marriott. You know, I got to see things. I got to go to malls. I got to see different people, different cultures. I mean, it was easy. You know, the only thing that sucked about my deployment was being away from you and Clara.
Yeah. And we were fortunate that we could communicate, unlike, you know, if you were on a ship and stuff, it's a lot different.
Yeah, my boat buddies are, you know, they communicate through email because that's all they have.
Yeah.
And I could FaceTime whenever I wanted.
Yeah, we were able to FaceTime almost every morning and every night, which would be like the opposite for each one of us. So when it was early morning my time, it was nighttime for him, vice versa. Can you explain to us a little bit about what you do on deployment, or like what your job is in the military? Just like what you can share.
We are an intelligence gathering platform, so we fly off the coast of places, look at things. Sometimes we do counter drug ops. We do ASW, anti-submarine warfare, so we look for submarines. We do SUW, surface warfare, see what enemy ships are out there.
And you're on the big planes.
Yeah, I'm on the P-8, which is a Boeing 737. We do all kinds of stuff.
So yeah, he has a pretty cool job. And
Search
I just
and rescue.
get to sit around home and do nothing all day.
Yeah, she's my little 1950s housewife. I better make it in this day.
I know, we'll see.